This is the latest dark fairy tale style movie of 2025 called The Ugly Stepsister, which is considered a version of Cinderella. An unremarkable girl, in order to gain the attention of the prince, undergoes an extreme and crazy transformation of herself. She arbitrarily removes her braces, undergoes rhinoplasty, applies fake eyelashes by hand, eats insect eggs, and gradually transforms herself into the ideal model in the eyes of the prince. The story begins when Elvira is reciting the poem of the Prince Duan. Her voice is affected by the metal braces, so it is unclear. But every word she utters is full of reverence. She reads the poem over and over again and imagines herself marrying the prince who wrote these beautiful lines. That dream is interrupted by the call of her mother, Mrs. Rebecca. They are preparing to change carriages to go to the manor of the noble Otto, where the mother intends to marry. When Elvira first met the car's daughter, Agnes, she immediately bowed her head because of the feeling of inferiority that welled up in her heart. Not long after, Rebecca and Otto's wedding took place on their wedding night. A tragedy occurred when Otto vomited blood and collapsed dead on the banquet table. Elvira went to comfort Agnes but was coldly dismissed by her, not at all grateful, but even mocked that Elvira did not understand what true sadness was, and had used her father's relics without restraint. Faced with such coldness and humiliation, Elvira was speechless. Agnes angrily criticized that if it were not for money, the mother and daughter would not have the right to enter this house. At that moment, Elvira immediately ran to inform her mother. Coincidentally, that was also the time when the property announcement was taking place. The lawyer announced that Otto had long been penniless, and was still burdened with huge debts. The manor, livestock, and all the land were sealed on the spot. The dream of a new life full of hope vanished in the blink of an eye. Mother and daughter fell into a state of panic. Elvira's mother said that the only way to survive was for Elvira to marry into a wealthy family, because a middle-aged widow with 2 illegitimate children would have a hard time climbing the ladder of power. In a moment of confusion, Elvira suggested that she would marry, but only received ridicule from her mother. Elvira looked in the mirror in disappointment. Her long face that people secretly called a horse face stood out under the light. Her nose was too long. Her teeth were crooked and messy. At that moment, news came from the royal family that the prince would choose his fiancée at the upcoming ball. The noble ladies were all eager to participate. Agnes applied with her noble name, and Elvira did not hesitate to give her name. Fortunately, she received an invitation card that symbolized hope. She excitedly shared the good news with her mother, who immediately realized that this was her only chance to turn things around. So she personally took Elvira to see the most famous plastic surgeon in town. The doctor examined Elvira's teeth and nose and commented that this was an extremely difficult case. He suggested removing the braces first and then reshaping the nose. He also introduced the clinic's exclusive handmade false eyelashes. When it came to the cost, Rebecca said she would pay double after the ball. The doctor agreed and immediately arranged the surgery. First, they forcibly removed the braces, then used a pneumatic device to hit the bridge of Elvira's nose. She was in so much pain that she almost fainted, but she gritted her teeth and endured it, believing that the pain was a worthy price to be beautiful and have a real chance of marrying the prince. After the surgery, her mother took Elvira to the modeling school, where they announced that they would be performing the opening act at the prince's ball. They needed to choose a lead dancer and 2 backup dancers. This was not just a performance, but a fateful night that would decide the future. Nobles and merchants would gather in large numbers. All the girls knew that this was an all-out battle for supremacy. The dance practice began. Elvira was so clumsy at imitating others' movements that the teacher couldn't stand it anymore. So she sent her to the back and pushed Agnes to the front. That night, in order to lose weight, Elvira ate very little. Agnes mentioned her father's burial. Rebecca said that Otto's burial could wait, but the makeover and the ball were definitely not to be missed. She even planned to use Agnes's old dress to fix it for Elvira to wear. Finally, the official list of contestants for the ball was posted. Elvira didn't expect anything, but she was surprised to see her name at the end. At that moment, she could hardly believe her eyes. It was as if fate had finally revealed a small ray of light. However, in the next training session, the teacher once again publicly humiliated Elvira. She said that if it weren't for Rebecca's mother's bribe, the teacher would not have wanted to accept Elvira as a student at all. Rebecca took out Agnes' old dress, fixed it, and forced Elvira to wear it. She discovered that she couldn't button it no matter what. Elvira collapsed, crying and confessing to her teacher that she felt completely hopeless, ugly and fat, and that there was no way she could be chosen by the prince. After the teacher consoled her, she gave her a strange gift. A parasite egg. As long as Elvira swallowed it, the parasites in her stomach would eat all the food she consumed. No matter how much she ate, she would not gain weight, and could even lose weight very quickly. This was considered a dangerous but effective shortcut to becoming beautiful. She planned to use the antidote to expel the parasites after she lost weight. When her sister found out, she was furious and shouted that Elvira was crazy. But Elvira was still unmoved. She swallowed the parasite as if she was swallowing her last hope. When she got home, Elvira heard strange noises, sneaked in, and through the crack in the door saw Agnes making love with the coachman in the stable. The news quickly reached Rebecca's ears, and she was furious, scolding Agnes for tarnishing the family's honor, then ordered her to be grounded and not allowed to leave the house even once. And the coachman was kicked out of the manor. 3 months later, the transformation plan entered its final stage. The metal clip on her nose was removed, and the bridge of her nose was sharpened straight. Her facial features also became sharp and neat. The next step was the most delicate and shocking, which was the manual eyelash attachment. The doctor put on gloves, held a special curved sewing needle, and carefully pierced Elvira's lower eyelid. Each stitch seemed to be sewing beauty into her body. Because Agnes was grounded, with her new face and precise movements, Elvira was chosen by the teacher to be the main dancer for the opening act. Everything seemed to be going smoothly, but not long after, Elvira began to feel abnormal in her body. Her hair was falling out in clumps. In order for her to shine at the ball, Rebecca spent a large sum of money to have a gorgeous dress made especially for her. When she discovered that Elvira's hair was falling out in clumps, she did not comfort or care, but coldly gave her a golden wig. When Elvira discovered that Agnes also had a dress, Elvira rushed over to tear the dress, trying to prevent Agnes from attending the ball. Agnes went to her father's body and cried. In her dream, she saw her mother, who had been dead for many years, looking at her gently, surrounded by countless parasites using silver thread to sew her dress. Her mother gave her a pair of beautiful shoes. The night of the ball finally arrived. The nobles took turns on stage, announcing their age, height, hobbies, background, even their tastes and special skills, as if this was not a self-introduction but a physical examination. The prince and the nobles were still laughing and joking around. When it was Elvira's turn to go on stage, everyone was overwhelmed by her radiant appearance and figure. No one could recognize who she was. The host introduced her as Miss Elvira, 18 years old, loved eating vegetables and hiking. The prince and his friends looked at Elvira with amazement. Elvira began the opening performance with a graceful ballet. Every move was perfect, captivating the entire hall. After the dance, the prince chose Elvira as his dance partner, spinning around in the lights as if it was just like the fairy tale her mother had always dreamed of. But in the middle of the ball, a beautiful stranger appeared. It was Agnes after her disguise. She asked the prince to dance. They danced right in the middle of the dance floor. The prince was immediately attracted. Elvira was in pain. Her stomach suddenly twisted violently. She ran to the side and threw up a bunch of parasite eggs. It turned out that the eggs in her stomach had caused serious side effects. Rebecca didn't care about her daughter's life or death. She just urged her to get up, saying that there were many other good men so she couldn't give up. She immediately introduced Elvira to the son of a tycoon. The two danced and talked, but Elvira only answered vaguely. Her body was so weak that she was about to faint. But when she raised her head, she discovered that the person dancing with the prince was Agnes. When the clock struck midnight, Agnes hurriedly left the ball, ran up the palace stairs and dropped a crystal shoe. The prince chased after her but only picked up the shoe. He declared that the girl who fit the shoe would be the one he would marry. Arriving home to get the remaining shoe, Agnes and Elvira argued. The noise made Rebecca order them to leave. Elvira discovered that her foot was too big to fit into the shoe. She frantically took a knife and chopped off the toes on her right foot, blood flowing profusely in heartbreaking pain. She thought that if she endured a little, she could marry the prince and change her fate. But Rebecca discovered a serious mistake. The prince was holding the left shoe, while Elvira was unconscious. Rebecca took the kitchen knife and chopped off her left toes. While in a coma, Elvira dreamed that she wore the shoe, married the prince and lived happily. The next day, the prince sent someone to each house to try on the shoe. Elvira woke up, dragging her broken body to try on the shoe, thinking that this time it was her turn. But Agnes only glanced at it and went out. Agnes fit the shoe, smiled and got in the car to marry the prince. Elvira could only watch as the fairy tale fell into the hands of others. She was then given an antidote, and the parasite that had been in her stomach for 3 months was pulled out. The story ended with the younger sister helping her older sister ride a horse away from the world built by power, plastic surgery, and empty promises. Thank you for watching the video. If you find it interesting, please give me a like and a subscription to help the channel develop further.